Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Voices in the Game. Happy you all are all along with us once again. And I cannot wait to get our conversation going with our guest here today. He is a sports broadcaster and an entrepreneur. He is a freelance play by play announcer for various schools across the Carolinas, and he is also the founder and CEO of Mach10 Digital. He is Mr. Ford Martin. Ford, how you doing, my friend? So happy to be talking with you again, and so happy you're joining us.
Thanks, Colt. Appreciate it. Looking forward to this. Should be a lot of fun. So thanks for having me.
Of course, Ford, anytime, my friend. So, Ford, let's get started, on your journey. So, can you take us back to the beginning? What first drew you to wanting to have a career in sports broadcasting? And was there any particular game or a moment that set in your mind saying, I think this is what I want to do?
Well, from the people that know me very well, I was born in the sport of NASCAR. My dad was a crew chief in NASCAR for Kevin Harvick at Richard Childress Racing. And it just really started just from being in the garage. The guys in the race team were my babysitters, the engineers were my math tutors, pretty much all of that. And you know, my dad provided me the platform, but I had to do all the work for it. So primarily where it all started was I just love seeing everything around the racetrack and seeing certain things I want to go do. And my dad let me go try to figure out what I wanted to do and things that I liked. And I came across a guy that you're familiar with, and Matt Yoakum. And Matt he was with Fox Sports at the time, and just seeing him at the racetrack, holding the mic, interviewing people, and it really got me into my love of just sports in general and play by play, that is, and broadcasting, and just seeing, because he did a couple practice sessions and let me come up in the booth and watch him kind of be in the booth and go through practices. He never officially did, a play-by-play at NASCAR race, but for practices and qualifying, he was up there. And he let me come up there, gave me the opportunity to meet Mike Joy. And no, I'm just 6 years old, 7 years old. I'm still learning everything. And Matt Yoakum pretty much is the reason how I got into it. And it really turned into multiple things where he was having a show with Tony Stewart on Sirius XM NASCAR radio for Tony Stewart Live, and brought me onto the show as a national motorsports correspondent. Went in there and get to interview drivers, the craziest questions. Asking a couple of the NASCAR drivers if I think it was like a Valentine's Day episode, and it's asking, hey, you going to Tiffany's for Valentine's Day, or any engagement rings coming up soon for some of the drivers. I can't remember who at the time, but just stuff like that. And just one thing led to another. But really just, I think, seeing guys like Alan Bestwick, Mike Joy, a lot of the guys really gave my inspiration into the NASCAR play-by-play stuff. But that's probably the reason. And then just really growing up, I'm a huge hockey fan. Not many people really realize that, just from me being born in Nashville, lived in North Carolina most of my life. And really, it all centered around Doc Emmerich. Mike Emmerich is my favorite announcer of all time. And he's the reason why I really like getting to broadcasting. And so from that to when I was a kid, playing these little race cars on the floor, announcing my own little races and putting the race on mute, annoying the crap out of my mom and my dad watching the race, or my mom, I should say. My dad was obviously at the racetrack, but just doing that. That's really was my inspiration. I've wanted to do it since I was 7 years old. A lot of kids want to be like a firefighter, an astronaut. I pretty much found out at a young age that I wanted to be a play-by-play broadcaster.
What were some of the biggest lessons for, that guys like Matt taught you, when you were getting your feet, when you were with your dad at the racetrack?
The biggest advice they gave me is to work harder than everybody else, essentially. Matt he's been a great mentor of mine, and just being around him was, I learned so much. And there's so many people, like I'm still thinking people in my head that I really learned from, like a guy like, Mike Keith from the Tennessee Titans. Met him when I was about 14. That's another guy that I really look to in the broadcasting world for the play-by-play nature. But something they all would tell me is work harder than everybody else. Your word is everything that you have. Just earning respect in whatever industry that you have, and because you never know when it's going to come back around, an opportunity might present itself. So that's pretty much what they've given me. I know it's the whole. It sounds like a lot of people say that a lot, but work harder than everybody else. Your word is everything that you have, and that's they've been so good to me as a kid, and they've really both of them actually. When I got 14 to meet Mike Keith, but as a kid and Matt Yoakum, they've really mentored me a lot as far as things to do. I've gone to them on any type of situation that I need. I go to them, and but Matt has really been the guy from day one that got me into the broadcasting side.
How do you think all that early exposure for really set you up for success, as you got onto those later years, in college when eventually went to High Point, and then also, of course, later on in your career, like where you are now?
Wow, it's one thing just led to another, truly, and just being a kid really around the garage. I mean, I was exposed to a lot, like whether I wanted to be a flagman, talk with a flagman guy about maybe being something for racing, to oh my goodness, there's so much just from if I want to be an engineer, if I want to be a crew chief, a spotter, a driver. Thought about being a driver for a while. I ran mini sprints for a while, legend cars, wasn't very good, needed a lot of money to back me up. I went the broadcasting route. I could be a part of it somehow, but it really opened me up to figuring out what do I want to do. Some people will say like, your dad gave you all these opportunities and everything. My dad gave me the platform. I went out and did the legwork behind it to go meet people, go talk to people. And I think that was one of the big keys is the work ethic of going out and wanting it is the big thing. And I think that's what really helped me out as a young kid that made me figure, hey, this is something that I really want to do in the long term.
And then, of course, you went on to be a student and graduated from High Point. So, how was that like, going to High Point for those 4 years and really trying to hone your craft and really set up tools, for you post graduation?
Well, I talked about it. I'm a big Nashville guy, right? Big Preds, Titans, Tennessee Volunteers, right? So I really wanted to go to Tennessee. Really want to go to Tennessee. A great broadcasting department. Obviously, Syracuse is the mountaintop just because of what has come out of Syracuse and what you can learn. But High Point offered me a ton at that campus. But something in particular that really was like, wow, okay, I really want to do this. They were just now getting the portion of this is back before ESPN Plus. This is, and I found very old saying like this is back when they used to do this, but it was the Big South Network, obviously the Big South Conference, the High Point is in. They said that I let them know what I wanted to do, and it was something pretty unique. And they said, hey, we're going to let students broadcast the games, direct graphics, all this. They would let do it. All the students do all of it. And I thought that was a pretty unique opportunity. I mean, I looked at it as Tennessee and Syracuse can teach me everything there is about play-by-play. But High Point offers me a unique opportunity where I can learn, I can have hands-on experience. And being able to go in the coaches' rooms. I mean, Syracuse and Tennessee, they can teach you this stuff. I mean, you might have a class where you can go talk to a coach, but it turned into all 4 years of High Point. I was a freshman. I mean, I came in and, the first week of being on campus, I mean, I'm calling a women's soccer game. I still go back and listen to that game a couple times and see how bad I was at that game. I was not very good. I would cringe if I was someone's father watching this guy call the game. But that's what I'm talking about. It gave me the hands-on experience of calling the games. Hey, I went back and I would watch every single game that I would call. I don't like that I did this. I don't like that I did that. I want to, add this to my intro, my outro, going to break, didn't sound, all that stuff. And I would watch every game, and I would do every game that I possibly could, from volleyball, soccer, basketball. Unfortunately, High Point didn't have football, but and those 4 years allowed me to grow. It would give me the foundation as a broadcaster so that when I came out of college, and did the opportunities that I had that really put me on the stepping stool to just from working this position. But it's really not just play by play, like the directing, the producing, the leg work beforehand, the graphics, the camera work. Like I get to learn all these positions because I felt like if I know how these guys work the games in the graphics department, in the camera department, everything, it would help me make my job better as a broadcaster. And it really did, it really did its wonders. So um, High Point taught me a lot. I mean, you can learn everything at High Point. It feels like from, they have just so many things that you can do on campus that can really set you up for success. I mean, it's a life skills university. It truly is. And High Point has done so much for me in my life, and I still apply the things that I learned from the people there to today.
And one of those gigs that you got after you graduated from High Point was calling races for the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR. So, how was that like for you for getting your feet wet and calling races for MRN? And how was that like preparing for races, before you go on the air?
Well, I think it really helps that that I have the background of and the knowledge of the sport, just because I was raised in the sport. The Reinhorn was gracious enough to give me an opportunity, and I've known the guys at MRN for a long time. Mike Bagley, Dave Moody, Kyle Rickey, and those guys there were they were so gracious. They were so gracious to me. They were so nice, and they were very helpful. And I remember going out for my first race. It was a Truck Series race at Atlanta, and just hearing me kind of give my intro where they would before the races on the pace laps. Dylan Welch would send it to me, and I would do the race. But before all of that, it's the leg work and just really understanding, where I'm up on top of a billboard and I have just a single button. I have my headset on, my microphone, and I would sit there in the turns and I would wait for my marker. You have to really listen to how they break down like a turns 1 and 2. They can be talking about the leaders. Johnny Sauter to the outside of Kyle Busch. They make their way back down the back straightaway. Like you can just hear, how they fluctuate their voice to where they can send it off the next person, that little marker that we have beforehand. And we do a lot of studying beforehand about where we would hand things off and really getting the rhythm of that. I mean, it was challenging at first. I think racing is one of the hardest sports to call for right now, I think, because they could be talking about something where, let's say Dylan Walsh is in turns 1 and 2, and he could be talking about Johnny Sauter and Kyle Busch are side by side, but then Kyle Busch completes the pass right at our marker where he sends it off to me. Well, you have to finish that call. And Kyle Busch now takes a 2-truck length advantage over Sauter. Now a battle for the 4 spot. A couple Toyotas are battling each other here because you got to like talk, see, explain, imagery, paint a picture in someone's head for someone that is driving down I-40, I-85 that doesn't know what is going on, and paint a picture in their head about exactly what's going on. And I really think that helped me as a broadcaster, just from really being detailed about what's going on, not being repetitive of the things that you say, like, have like a couple bow ties down the back straightaway, Chevrolet, just things like that. Like, and just really, as I said, painting a picture in someone's head. And that was a great opportunity. And I really am appreciative of Ryan Horn and the guys at MRN, and they were so great with me. I learned a lot from them, and yeah, it was a very it was a great experience.
And also during this time, you also made the jump joining Fox, full-time Fox Sports, I should say, as a digital content producer. So what were your role and responsibilities there for it as a digital content producer, and then eventually expanding on that role, as you got promoted to lead digital producer?
Yeah, it all started kind of going back when I was at High Point, where I would start out, just trying to apply to a couple places. And actually, Matt Yoakum was one of the guys that got me into Fox on the digital content side. He reached out to Lindsay Mandy, who's the coordinating producer at Fox, and to try to get me a internship. My entire senior year, spring semester, would drive down there at would wake up at 5, leave at 5:30, be down there before 7 a.m. meetings, and just I would work with the crew to be a specialist, gather information, and I mean, you did a lot of the same stuff I did, apply stuff for the NASCAR Race Hub show and take clips, apply it to that, and really worked at that as an internship. And as soon as I got out of college, Lindsay offered me a job to go and work there on the NASCAR digital side and work with a guy and Michael Jankelovitz, who was a great boss who I learned a lot from over there. Neil Foley, and working with the Waltrip Unfiltered show. That was a great experience. I get to really learn on from a guy like Alex Mills, who's I believe over still at Hendrick Motorsports now. But I got to learn a lot from him on the producing side, and it just was a step after step after step, like learning things and learning to being a digital producer and getting to work on projects with the Super Bowl, the World Series, Daytona 500, and that was such a great experience. I mean, just really going off and just seeing the different sports and the people that I would work with, because there's 2 locations at Fox. So you have your Charlotte location, and then you have the LA location. And obviously sometimes it would kind of suck because somebody might say, hey, we're going to have a 4 p.m. meeting real quick. Well, at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'm like, I'm trying to eat dinner. I'm trying to go to bed or here pretty soon. I mean, I'm trying to do something. That would be the only downside, because they would all run through LA. They would be the ones in charge. And that's primarily where it came from, just working with the group that I did. And it just led to one thing to another. And it was a great experience working at Fox. You learn so much. And I was able to produce a show with Larry McReynolds and really work with him. And it started a relationship just with Larry and Adam Alexander and Dave Moody that would come into, Fox Sports a lot, kind of expanding our relationship. And that was great. I really had a great time, working with those guys, and that started a relationship with Adam Alexander, and which expanded to today. I go to Adam for a lot of things on the broadcasting side, and he's been great as a person that I go to for advice. But it was, I mean, I can go on and on about the people that I met there. Everyone was so nice to me. And yeah, I think when I look back at my time there, it was a great 4 years of learning. I always say God gives you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And it was a lot of listening. And that's where that I tried to take in part of there. But it was a great experience. And I do miss it. I do miss going out to Fox a lot, just because the exposure that you have there. Obviously, unfortunately, they made the move as far as there's no more NASCAR Race Hub and a lot of the shows, but just my time there was great. The people there were even better.
Yeah, now for some context, for any of our listeners, Ford and I actually worked together because I too was an intern at Fox Sports in the fall of 2021 during the first semester of my senior year. Yeah, and Ford, I just have to say, I did learn so much from you. It was just such a great time, working with you, my friend. And yeah, that's also an
I hope
experience
it was all good things, right?
I will always remember forever as well, my friend. And sticking with your time with Fox Ford, how was that like, like you mentioned, getting to expand with other projects, with stick and ball sports, and not just focusing on NASCAR?
I think it really helped a lot, honestly. I think one of the coolest experience was able to work the World Cup. And I remember Jack Coakley and I were he was my coworker. He was in LA and going over the whole World Cup schedule. And I mean, it was a rough schedule. Like, we would be up at probably, I would take a nap before going into work, because this is the other side of the world. The World Cup was happening. I would come into work at like 8 p.m. and then would work until 6 a.m. And I would go home, go right back to bed. Like, it was very challenging, but it also was great to see our group together. We would Slack each other, be on Zoom meetings, and just seeing soccer from Fox's side of things and clipping stuff from different sports clipping stuff from different games that were happening. That was such a unique experience, just being with our team. Hey, we want to do this, we want to do that. Here's our people on the ground. This is what we want to clip. This is what we want to work with. Here's our studio shows, and working with those guys. And it was a lot of late nights. I'm not a coffee guy, which my wife still can't believe that. But it was a lot of Dr. Peppers that night of trying to stay awake. That was the biggest thing. And um, it was still a great time. A lot of McDonald's runs because it would be open 24/7 and chowing down some burgers and fries at 3:45 in the morning, just clipping stuff, helping me stay awake, splashing water in my face in the bathroom just to keep me awake. But it was so cool. That I think it's being exposed to that sport and that event itself was truly a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then moving on from your time at Fox, you went into a not necessarily a completely different role, but you went into a different role entrepreneurship wise, starting your own business with Mach10 Digital. So, how was that like beginning the process of starting your own business when you went on this new journey after you departed Fox Sports?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, Colton. It's still scary because it's a lot of unknowns, and I primarily used some of the connections that I made through racing and through my buddy of mine, one of my best friends, Nick Hamilton. He's really deep in the digital ecosystem and really understands it. We both have a love for just content, and we would working with him and working with some of the contacts I would have, contacts that I would have. It was a great experience just because but like I said, it was scary at the same time because it was exciting because I would go in and reach out to certain people and to see if I have something building, and it would work when after some things with Fox and companies that I was with before. I'm like, hey, I feel comfortable doing this, making the official move over. So when I left, because I was at Stewart Haas for a short amount of time, and I said, you know what, I want to do this. This is something I want to do. So when I left Stewart Haas to come over here and do what I wanted to do at Fox or what I want to do at Mach10, a lot of people would say, hey, Ford, I got a little I need like a graphic made. It'd be one thing, hey, Ford, I need like I'm doing like a little podcast like once a month. Will you help me with that? Little things here and there would just reach out connections. And now I work with people down from Virginia down to Florida, whether it be racing podcasts, political podcasts, just different things altogether. And it was an exciting experience. And I still really enjoy what I do. And it's allowed me to do a lot of the broadcasting side. And that has really helped. But not nearly as much on that. I do some stuff now helping out with Maurice Hull and Laura Hull over at Silverhair Racing and Marketplace or Silverhair Ventures. And we're working on the real estate company on their side. And though they have been really great with me. And so not as much on the Mach10 deal. I'm still able to work with it and still help a lot of people. But it's a lot of things going on, Colton. You know what it is. Like you have this going on, you have that going on, but it's still pretty enjoyable. But I love what I do.
Yeah, and so for people who don't know about Mach10 what services do you provide at Mach10?
Yeah, so we do, and I have some people that help me. That when I can't go do something, they'll go do it, which is part of the nature where I'm not as deep into it as I once was. But helping out whether you have a wedding, a podcast, whether it be graphic design, primarily anything from, like I said, in the digital ecosystem as far as helping out content creation for certain athletes, work with them for shorts. We work with people like we just got done making Connor Zilich's website, which is exciting. I love Connor and working with him. So yeah, I think that part's been great. And but yeah, it's a really it's a fun project to do on the side for me, but it allows me, like I said, to do my broadcasting work. And my wife doesn't want me on it too much because she wants attention because I'm doing 100 different things at one time. But it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
And when and why did you decide to get back into the sports broadcasting game, especially with doing play-by-play work again?
Yeah, I think where it came from was because I always still wanted to do it, and it became tough at Fox just because of I couldn't do ESPN games, and that became a challenge. It was a little bit of a setback, but I think it was a needed step back to make the connections that I did, to learn what I did. And then when I left that, I was able to go back into the sports broadcasting side of things. I missed it. I wanted to do more of it. I did my high school broadcast, but it was really hard because, like you said, high school games are usually on Friday nights. And you look at my schedule, the people in LA, yeah, I was on an LA schedule living in the East Coast. So my day, which would be great, I can sleep in if I want to. It's 11 a.m. Awesome. I didn't do that, but it was still, I can go into work early if I want to, but a lot of my meetings would be, 4 o'clock Pacific time, 7 p.m. my time. And that would be unfortunate. But when I left there, I was able to, when I was and still do everything with Mach10. And I would go out and able to work with a lot of the schools that are around and get back in the hang of things, and it would be great. It truly has been a lot of fun doing it, and that's primarily been the spark of getting back into the racing side of things, or to the broadcasting side of things. Just when I watch a broadcast, I'm like, I would probably do this a little bit differently. I would do that differently. Learning about how this guy broadcasts game, I watch it more in detail, and it feels like a lot of the games, even like the Stanley Cup games that are going on right now, just listening to how they call the game, less about the game itself, but just how they call the game. What are their outros like? What are their intros like? How do they come back from break? When they try to set up their analysts, what do they say? That, I think, gave me the spark to get back in. And here we are today.
Yeah, just following you on social media, you really did bounce around with so many schools in the Carolinas, and just around that area. So, what were the challenges of juggling and bouncing around, doing play by play for so many different schools and so many different sports all at once?
I think it's just about how bad do you want it. It truly is. Like, how bad do you want it? And it was like that for me. It was, look, obviously I got to check with the boss, my wife, on a couple things, but that's why having a supporter like her and a partner has helped, that she gives me the support of go out and allows me to go do it. So that's the number one thing. I want to make sure I get that in order. But it's all about how bad do you want it. Whether you're up late, you're driving late, that's what matters. You're investing in yourself. A lot of broadcasters tend to, I think, in my opinion, make the mistake of asking, well, I'm driving so and so. I'm driving hours and hours to come call a game. Do you think I can be compensated for, a hotel or gas? I think that immediately is a mistake because it sets off a kind of a tough opinion on a broadcaster being an SID or director of broadcasting that's in charge of the talent. You want to invest in yourself early on. And I think that's where I didn't care how far I had to drive. I didn't care if I got paid for my travel. It didn't make a difference to me. I just wanted to do the broadcasting. So juggling all these different sports was, while it was hard, it was like, look, I can do this. I want to go meet people, FaceTime. One of the things that I think hurt a lot during COVID was we as a civilization lost FaceTime with one another, talking to people, interacting with people. This was happening when I was at Fox. I wanted to go back in the office so bad. There would be a few select people in there. The digital team didn't really understand it. I mean, they're from LA. They didn't really understand why I wanted to go back in the office because it feels like everybody just wants to, work from home, work in your pajamas. I wanted to be in the office. I wanted FaceTime. I wanted to meet people. That's how I feel about why I wanted to do all these different schools. I want to meet people. I want to work with people. I want to work on my craft. It's all about how bad do you want it. You can't want it. When someone tries to tell you, like, my dad always says to me all the time, I can't want it any more than you do. When he tries to, like, hey, like when people tell me these schools are pretty hard and these schools are long distances and everything, I want it more than anybody else. And that's the drive. That's what any young broadcaster should have, the drive. I want it more than anybody else. How bad do you actually want it? That's primarily how I juggle the schools, is how bad do you want it?
Yes, and for anyone listening out there, everything Ford said is 1000% true. So You also use social media for your presence. So how has social media helped you to promote yourself with your broadcast and also expanding your audience as well?
Truly, it's one of the best things I've ever done. And I mean that. Being from it's so amazing because I was kind of talking to my wife about this today. Is that you know I mean, I'm not afraid to say it and everything. Look, I'm a Christian. I believe, I believe Jesus is, I have a relationship with him. And I was talking to her about it today of, it's amazing the path that I've been on. I wanted to do all these different things and learn the digital content deal. I wanted to do this. And one thing led to another. Here I am where, okay, the Lord has set me up on a path where here I am working on the digital content stuff for Mach10. That has led to now for me being able to create content that I have for me now. So I'll go back to right here, Colton. Digital content and promoting yourself is one of the best things that you can do for yourself in sports broadcasting. You see all these different things that people try, unique things, where they would show just the call itself, just the broadcast clip. What I started doing, I thought, let me try something unique and something a little bit different compared to what people might see on TikTok or Instagram. I just pulled up my iPad and I would just have it on myself. And then I would, mix it together and have it right on time together where it would show a certain call that I had and it would have me giving the reaction to the call. That has helped grow me, not only in my social media and the reach, it's actually helped me make contacts with different schools doing that. And funny enough, like the agency that I work with, and Insight Sports Advisors, who they've been great. Oderly Hawkins and Debbie Spander, they saw that and they're like, "This is great. Like, we love it." It wasn't the reason they saw me, but it was one of the things that they really loved about me and what they saw my potential in, because it saw the growth that I have in it. But social media and marketing yourself is one of the best things that you can do to advance in this career, especially in sports broadcasting. So I think the more you can do it, the more you can show yourself, the more work you put into it and style it up and put it on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram, Twitter, whatever you got to do. It's one of the best things that you can do for yourself. So, like I said, I was talking to my wife about it today. It's just amazing the path that I've been on, learning a lot of the digital content stuff, the broadcast stuff as a kid, making the connections, one thing after another, all the way up to where I am now. It's like, this is how I market myself. This is how I go and talk to people, reach out to people. That's just probably where it starts from. And I think social media is a huge part of that. And you never know what type of connection. You never know if the talent at CBS Sports is sitting there in his bed on TikTok scrolling and he comes across on your page and goes, that kid's pretty cool. It doesn't matter if you have one follower or you have a billion followers. The guy from CBS, ESPN, Virginia University, North Dakota State might be sitting there scrolling and just sitting there going, man, we're really struggling for play-by-play guys. And he's sitting there scrolling and comes across your page. You never know, if that's going to be the marriage you want. My dad used to tell me all the time, open the door for every girl that you see. You never know, you might be opening the door for your wife. So that's the way I kind of looked at it. My broadcasting work to try and show that what I can do and market myself, you never know where that can lead you. It might not be, what you think it might be. They might send you to a small high school. They might see it might not be the CBS Sports that you're wanting, but a small high school that can lead to one opportunity to meet somebody that might have their kid playing on the team, and he watches that game and sees his kid and sees the talent going. You never know where social media can lead you, and it comes back to how bad do you want it?
Exactly, Ford. And what advice do you have for anybody who has an interest in getting in just the sports industry as a whole?
The biggest advice I can give is, like I said, it comes back to Biggest advice I can give, it comes back to how bad do you want it again. And reaching out to as many colleges out there, as many high schools out there. If you're officially starting out, it's so important to just take your phone, take the voice memos app, and go sit in the stands. Broadcast the game. Just talk. Broadcast the game yourself. Start with that. Just get in the rhythm about what you see, what you hear. Go back, and I know a lot of people don't like it, but listen to yourself. Comment. You know, when a lot of broadcasters, one of the reasons they want to get into it is because they watch other broadcasters. You're watching, for example, like my guy, Mike Emmerich or Mike Keith, who's now at the Tennessee Volunteers. One of the reasons you watch them, you just kind of listen to how they talk about the game. Compare that to your work. Start with a local high school. They would love broadcasters to come and call high school games, whether it be women's games, baseball, whoever. Just they need people to come broadcast games. Then once you feel comfortable, you feel like, hey, you know what? This is exactly what I'm looking for. This is exactly what I want to do. Now I'm going to start working to go to the school itself, talk to the high school, talk with them, see what they have, see what's available. And you never know what path that might lead you on. You might call their games. One thing might lead to another. You just don't know. Nobody knows what path you go on. You might be at the same high school for a long time. You might make the jump pretty quickly. But it all comes down to you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's on the other side of that door. You never know who's listening to that broadcast. That's what I think is the biggest advice I can give for someone starting out. And I think when you get to that for broadcasters, another thing I give is when it comes down to the game itself. Biggest advice that I can give is when you're making your spotting board, if you use 10%, even, maybe even 5% about what you put on your spotting board and you say that in the game, you had a pretty great broadcast. If you just use 7% about what you use, about what you prepared for in the actual broadcast, you had a pretty good game. A lot of people get stuck in their spotting boards. They get stuck in the note taking during the game. I think the more you're on your board, the less you're watching the game, the less you're talking to your analyst, working with your analyst. I really think it comes down to if the hardest part of your week is the game itself, you were unprepared. It should be the note taking, the things beforehand. That should be the hardest part of your week. That should be the hardest part. Going out, researching. You never know what rabbit holes you might be sent down in the preparation work. Talking to the coaches. That should all be the hardest thing you do. The hardest thing should be the note taking. The easiest thing should be the broadcast itself, because you want to talk with your analysts. Because if you're sitting there staring at your board, and I get it, people want to, look, you gotta understand, like, certain, you're not gonna remember every stat, but the more that you were in your board, the less time you're watching the game, the less time you're informing the audience, the less time you're working with your analyst. Because a lot of people, I think a lot of broadcasters out there are too robotic, and they want to just do the play-by-play. They don't talk to their analyst. It's just the play-by-play guy says something, the analyst says something. It's a conversation. You got to remember, these are two guys or girls up there just having a conversation, just talking about the game. What are you seeing? These are just, think about it. Colton, we're guys that love sports, have a love for sports. We're watching a game. We're getting paid to do it. That's the exciting portion of it. And I think a lot of broadcasters that we're seeing up and coming are so focused on the play-by-play portion and less about working with your analyst. So that's what I think is the best piece of advice that I can give is be less time in your board, more time working with your analyst. That's what I think is the best piece of advice I can give to somebody.
And finally for you, Ford, just talking, over the course of your life, you have had so many phenomenal memories, really being born into the sports world, and then transitioning into working in it. So, if you can pinpoint anything, what has been your favorite memory in your career and also you pretty much in your life too, working in the sports industry?
Wow. I could go on and on about certain memories. I mean, I think one that really sticks out to me was a game winner for Winthrop. And versus, I want to say it was William and Mary. It was my first buzzer beater. And I just remember I saw the moment coming. I'm like, okay, never had a buzzer beater call before, but I can see it was they were trying to, I want to say it was William and Mary were about to make a free throw to take the lead. They did. And beforehand, I just kept telling myself, okay, while my analyst was talking, this is how I want to frame up my call. This is how I want it to be like, because people are going to listen to this call over and over when they go back and listen to it. And I'm just listening to him set the play up and everything. And then I want to be familiar about who's on the court. You don't want to get too excited, obviously. And this is a while back. You don't want to get too excited in the moment. Like, oh my gosh. Like, I think I was watching, my analyst gave his analysis about the players that are on the court. I watched down the court, and Bryce Baker made a 3 at the buzzer and just knocking that down. I just remember the excitement that I had. And I actually had a video of me on it of just like oh, that he knocks down, because I was doing radio for Winthrop. So obviously I was pro Winthrop. I had to be pretty excited. And that was such a really cool moment. Just my first buzzer beater was so awesome. And but that's just a long tale of so many things. I mean, I think MRN being up in the corner my first race doing racing, just because there were so many times as I was a kid being in the floor, calling my own little races, here's Dale Earnhardt Jr., the inside of Jeff Gordon, had my own little race as a kid. Being able to go up in the turns and do that myself was truly one of the best experiences in my life. And I can't thank MRN for the opportunity enough to allow me to trust me to go up there and do that. And that was such a unique experience and a fun experience to do that. So it's hard between those two. I think I'm going to give it a tie, but being able to, as a kid growing up watching racing, being involved in racing as much as I was, go up there and broadcast a race was by far at the top of the mountain.
Ford, awesome stuff, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. I had such a great time catching up and really getting to know your story more. Thank you so much again for coming on, my friend.
Yeah, Colton, thanks so much. It was a great time, and looking forward to seeing what else that you got going on for your broadcasting world.